Hi, welcome back to My Favorite Mistake. I'm your host, Mark Graban. And today we're doing another update with one of our guests, part of the series where we've been catching up and learning what's new with our guests. Today we are joined again by Dr. Susan Landers. She was a guest in episode 213 about a year ago, June of 2023. So I'll put a link in the show notes, or you can go to markgraban.com/mistake 213 if you want to check out that episode. So Susan, welcome back to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you, Mark. I'm doing well. I've been busy talking with groups of young women and professionals and nurses and women physicians. It's been very exciting.
Oh, well, that's great. That's great to hear. For people who didn't hear the first episode, Susan was previously author of a book. We were talking about it in that episode, So Many Babies, My Life Balancing a Busy Medical Career and Motherhood. And part of your busy life is a new book, an eBook. Tell us about that, or maybe compare it. How does that build upon? How is it different than your first book?
I get so many questions about how I handled certain challenges throughout my professional career and my stint as a mother of 3 kids that I decided to focus on the burnout aspect of being a working mother. For one reason, it is very prevalent right now. And another is that many women who are struggling with it don't realize that they've already reached burnout and have no idea how to get started in recovery. Mm-hmm. So because of my writing a memoir and going through my personal and professional experiences, I was able to pick out the best examples of how I took care of myself, how I dealt with troubles along the way, how I dealt with 2 episodes of burnout, one at age 42 and one at age 60. And instead of repeating myself over and over, which is fun to do when you're talking with groups of people, I decided to create the ebook and synthesize a guidebook that I consider to be really pretty practical. Mm-hmm. It's got a couple of checklists to see where you are and to identify what's going on in your life as triggers. It's got a good description of signs and symptoms. The book delves into how burnout can affect your life, your relationships, your children, your work life. And then the final half of the book is what processes really work to recover from burnout and what aspects of self-care people can realistically do. Mm-hmm. And some of us can't change a bad job. Some of us have to work under a boss we can't stand. But there are things we can do, like get a mentor at work. Mm-hmm. There are some things that I've discovered along the way in my long career that I think helps other people. As Mark has said on this podcast many times, we learn a lot from our best mistakes at work. And so what I've tried to do is interject some of my personal examples throughout this book to make it more practical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the new ebook is Defeating Burnout, a guide for working mothers. You can buy the book. SusanLandersMD.com is your website, right?
Yes.
And I'll make sure there's a specific link in the show notes, but only, or we could say exclusively available through your website, correct?
Right. And there's some other resources there, checklist and wellness journals and things like that working mothers might be interested in. But the ebook is brand new, called Defeating Burnout, a guide for working mothers.
Yeah. And like you said, unfortunately, so many women, so many people are already in a state of burnout. If they're reading the book at an earlier stage, are there similar tips that might prevent burnout or prevent mild burnout from getting worse?
Yes. In the very end of the book, I approached it as, now that you've identified your burnout and recovered from it, how do you prevent it from happening again? How do you make those choices in your life, professionally, with your career, with your family? And so I did address that issue because I get that question a lot.
Yeah.
It's not just about recovery. It's about preventing the same problem from occurring again.
Well, it's a very important message and very much in keeping, in line with the podcast, talking about not repeating mistakes, not shaming anybody either for mistakes. There's no reason, easier said than done. I mean, we shouldn't shame others. Someone shouldn't shame themselves for becoming burned out.
No, it's very prevalent. We all tend to get in over our heads. I think young working women who are mothers are very good at getting in over their heads because they have caring characters, and it just really can sneak up on you sometime. And once you find yourself at the edge of the cliff, it's really important to know how to pull back, get better, and do better next time. So yes, we learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
And since I'm older now, I like to share my personal and professional experiences. I'm not very shy about the mistakes I've made in my career. And what I hope is this book will give other women a fighting chance to be okay.
Well, it's a great mission and a book that's going to be really helpful. So again, joined again for the update with Dr. Susan Landers, the new book, Defeating Burnout, a guide for working mothers. You can find it at susanlandersmd.com. Congratulations on getting that book done. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for helping others. And thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. And keep up the good work you're doing.
Well, thank you.